Check it out, I've got such a fun video for you today because if you had gone back just a few years ago and you wanted an EV, there's basically one shape of car you could buy, which was a sedan that probably cost a lot of money. But fast forward to 2022 and look at all the options. You got everything from affordable hatchbacks to small crossovers to luxury sedans to a full-blown pickup truck. And in this video, we're gonna show you the diversity and figure out which one is right for you. Let's talk about the most affordable car in the lineup today, the Chevrolet Bolt, in this case, the EUV. Now there's this misconception that EVs have to be really expensive, but the Chevrolet Bolt EUV starts at just a tick over $27,000. And you're probably thinking, well, 27 grand, you're gonna get 50 feet of range. That is not the case. This car has 247 miles of range, which is more than I think you'd need on an everyday basis. This thing is actually a really good value. Now this one, of course, is fully loaded. It's got all the bells and whistles and the fancy Super Cruise, and this one comes in at like $38,000, but wait till you see the inside and the sheer number of features you get. Now from the outside, the EUV and the Bolt are more hatchback than anything else. They do claim this to be kind of a crossover, but it is still fairly low. However, it's an attractive car. You've got these cool split daytime running light and headlight design. It's got this cool stormtrooper look, the red on the black on the white. This one's a red line package, so you get like these Corvette style stripes everywhere. The charging port is located right here on the front left of the vehicle, and it has normal charging and CCS fast charging. It's not much of a road tripper though. GM says about 95 miles of range in 30 minutes of charging. That's one of the downsides of the Bolt, and something that the other three will quickly address. Now, the great thing about the Bolt though, even though it's pretty small on the outside, you got a lot of trunk room on the inside. The whole thing lifts open and it reveals a big trunk. It's got an enormous back seat, and wait till you see the inside. Look how nice this thing is for like a $37,000, $38,000 car. You got this huge 10-inch screen. You've got a screen here in front of the steering wheel that shows you all kinds of fun information like your current range estimation. And the Bolt is smart. It'll actually give you a range. So for example, if I drive nicely, I can get 254 miles of range. If I drive like a Formula 1 driver, 177. And then it kind of changes depending on your driving style. These new cars are really smart. See this strip at the top of the steering wheel? That right there is Super Cruise. It's a fully hands-free system on pre-mapped highways throughout the US. You can literally drive this car without touching the steering wheel or the brakes or any of the functionality. Now we've got heated seats, we got a heated steering wheel here. This thing is fully loaded. It really is a ton of nice features. You got your controls here for park, reverse, neutral drive, a couple of big cup holders, these big comfy seats, which are so much better than the old one, and even a dual pane sunroof, all for under $40,000. This thing fully maxed out is cheaper than a base ID4, way cheaper than like a Hyundai Ioniq 5 base model. It really is an incredible value, but let's see what it's like to drive. The Chevy Bolt EUV has a single electric motor that powers just the front wheels. It's got 200 horsepower. Let's do an acceleration in 3, 2, 1. So you get a lot of front wheel spin and then the car accelerates away. Now this is not much of a performance vehicle. Everyone thinks that EVs are crazy fast because of like the Teslas and whatever, but not every EV is insanely fast. This car is plenty quick for driving around every day, and it will certainly allow you to pass people with confidence, but it's by no means really quick. But for driving around in the city, it's nice and small. You got these big windows, you got this easy steering. It's very convenient to see the corners. It's simple to park, and it's relatively comfortable. And it's got a great Bose audio system in this car, and it's just a fantastic little all-around deal. Now, it's probably not going to be excellent in the snow because it's just front-wheel drive, and you know, you're not going to probably wow anyone with the brand name or the overall design, but for a great way to save money in gasoline, charge it up at home for pennies on the dollar, the Bolt EUV is a great option. Next up, we have the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and this vehicle is one of my all-time favorites, not just for an EV, but bar none. This thing is truly fantastic. Now this is a crossover, even though it looks a little bit like a 1980s hatchback. This thing is one of the coolest pieces of design out there. It's also pretty good value and delivers astonishingly good performance. So let's talk about it. Now this is the fully loaded model with all-wheel drive. It goes right around 250, 260 miles on a single charge. So not all that different than that Chevrolet we looked at, but the difference between the Hyundai and the Chevrolet is the fast charging. So that Chevy can charge at up to 55 kilowatts. This thing can do well over 200. And that means that on the right charger, you can go from 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes. So that's what, like 190 miles added in 18 minutes, something like that, 180, something like that. This thing is an absolute charging beast, and that's just the start of the coolness. Now, the other thing about the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is that you've got an insanely large, spacious, and comfortable interior. Let's take a look at that. Check out how cool this interior is. This thing is absolutely fantastic. It feels like you're kind of in a Swedish nightclub when you step inside this thing with how open and airy it is. But this really does feel like you're driving the Jetsons car of the future. You've got these two enormous screens, which are very configurable, and they're super easy to use. They're just so good. You've got this fantastic display here that looks like, well, I mean, honestly, it looks like something straight out of like the Enterprise spaceship with these bars that extend forward. You got this funky two-spoke steering wheel. This is such a great place to spend time. And check out the roof. This enormous, fully panoramic roof that opens kind of in the middle, which is very, very cool. This whole center console. You see this whole middle section? Look at this. It slides. If you want to put your purse or whatever you have there, your groceries, so they don't fall over, you can slide this around and really configure it. There's even a mode in the Hyundai Santa Cruz where you can recline and then lift up this footrest so you can have a little bit of a nap while you're waiting at a charging station. How great is that? This thing is such a fantastic car. It really is that good. And it drives even better than it looks. Now the Hyundai Ioniq 5 has two motors, one in the front, one in the back, and this car has over 300 horsepower. So when you hit the accelerator, it's, it's a lot quicker than the Chevrolet Bolt, and everything goes sliding around in the trunk. But genuinely, when you're not driving like an idiot, it's such a comfortable place. Not only are all electric cars fully quiet, but this one is exceptionally smooth. The suspension is smooth, the steering is smooth, and it really is a fantastic place to spend a lot of time. Now the range, 260 miles, people are like, oh, well, my diesel truck will go 700 miles and I never have to pee. I changed my bladder so I never have to pee. But like, that is completely unrealistic for most folks, right? Like, you're never driving 500-600 miles for the most part on a single day. Most folks are driving 40, 50, 60 miles to work and back and spending a ton of money nowadays to fuel up their cars, whereas these vehicles are very cheap to fuel up at home. But overall, this thing is fantastic. Now, it doesn't have quite the same amount of hands-free driving technology that the Bolt does. It does have lane centering and adaptive cruise control and all the safety gear, but it won't go completely hands-free on the highway. You still gotta drive it, go figure. However, it is truly one of the best new cars to drive. It's got so much space. It's got a lot of rear seat headroom too, even for tall folks. Good legroom in the back, a huge trunk. This car is an absolute winner. So say you want a little bit of luxury in your EV, well, check out the new Mercedes-Benz EQE. This thing, by the way, is brand new, and this is a car you can tell was designed to look swoopy, to look very, very aerodynamic, because it is very, very aerodynamic, and there's no doubt that this thing is fully electric from a distance. Some of these cars, you're like, is it electric, is it gas? Not the Mercedes. Now, a couple of crazy things about the Mercedes. Mercedes doesn't allow you to open up the hood on this car. There's apparently nothing underneath there that the owner can service. So what they do is they give you this little guy right here on the side of the car, push in, and that's where you fill up your windshield washer fluid. Now, this car really does look pretty futuristic on the outside. You got these crazy wheels that are all covered up, and they're covered up for aerodynamic purposes. This car is so new, we don't know how far it'll go on a single charge, but figure somewhere right around 300 miles, and it also charges really quickly. Figure 10 to 80% in roughly 30 minutes. So what's that? 200 miles gained in 30 minutes at a charging station? Not bad. Now, this is the only one of the group that has a trunk. This is a traditional sedan. Okay, traditional. It's insane looking, but you know, it's got a trunk. So to open up the trunk, you push in on the Mercedes emblem, it glides open, and it's surprisingly huge. But the best part about the Mercedes is not the outside, it's the inside. And you got to check out some of the crazy features. So the interior on the EQE is just next level. I mean, the Ioniq 5 was nice, but the quality of materials in here and the design is absurd. Look at these seats. You got this diamond stitching on the seats, and I love the color contrast. Mercedes went bold with this interior. You got a brown on a white on some black finishes, and it just looks good. And you got this cascading finish across the dashboard, and you got these blue lights all throughout. This thing looks so futuristic and overall so cool. Now, when you step inside, put your foot on the brake and bring it into life, you'll realize really quickly that Mercedes has done away with just about every switch, every volume knob, every kind of physical control. It's all digital and all controlled through this MBUX. And well, it's actually pretty darn good. At first, it can be a little bit overwhelming with just the sheer number of, look, you can see the whole world. Mercedes gives you access to the entire planet in this car. It's going to be a little overwhelming to the things you can do, but I mean, it's such a cool system. Look at this. Look, what is this? Look how neat this is. You can actually see yourself move and drive along from a third dimension. just absolutely nuts. Of course, you also have the big glass roof and one in the rear just for, you know, just for kicks. But wait to see how this thing drives, because it's going to be the most refined of the bunch. So what separates the Mercedes from the other two really is a driving experience. This is well, it's a bold car to look at, to put it lightly, but when you get behind the wheel and you feel the engineering behind this thing, it really is amazing. Now, this one is the EQE 350, so acceleration, well, cameraman Ryan still went flying toward the back. It's pretty darn good. It's not like mind-numbingly quick, but it's very, very acceptable. And everything in the driving experience is just stunning on the Mercedes. The way that it handles the bumps, the four-wheel steering, this car has steering on the rear axle too, so when you make turns that are really tight, it feels like a little teeny-weeny city car, and then you look back and you realize, wow, I just made that turn in my luxury sedan. But it's so well isolated from the outside world, and it does feel like you're driving, you know, a budget Rolls Royce in here. I mean, every EV is quiet, but this one's even quieter than the last two. Like, how do they make it this quiet? It's just nuts. It's also pretty fun to drive. You have different drive modes. You can push these little buttons here and go into sport mode, and that kind of sharpens everything up, makes it feel a lot more sporty. But where this car shines is just isolating you from the outside world, putting on your favorite tunes through the fantastic Burmeister audio system. Now, we don't know what the price is on the EQE. It's that new, but figure somewhere right around $70,000 is probably a good bet. And honestly, I'd take this over a gasoline car. It's that nice to drive. And lastly, I bring to you the truly ridiculous Hummer EV. Now, this is a fully electric pickup truck off-roader. That's just gonna blow your mind. Everything about this car is insane. The battery on this is over twice the size of that already enormous Mercedes battery. It's like 212 kilowatt hours. You could cook like 26 turkeys with the amount of energy in a Hummer battery. Over 300 pizzas. Think about that. How nuts is that? Now, I mean, it weighs 9,400 pounds. The battery in this car weighs more than a Mazda Miata. It's that absurd. But it is also quite expensive, right? $112,000. Now, check out one of the coolest features in the Hummer EV. It has the front trunk. And if I pull the key out of my pocket here, I'm going to show you how that works. You push a button, push it twice, and that's going to glide open. And this is one of the only vehicles of the four we're looking at today that has an actual usable front trunk. It's big. You can put whatever you could possibly need back here. It's got tie downs and it's super, super useful. But just everything about this truck is over the top. The tires are 35 inches tall. The ground clearance when you jack up the air suspension is something like 15 inches. It's so wide they had to put like the marker lights on the roof, just like you'd find on a semi truck. And then we get on the inside and you realize where that $112,000 go. All right, now hoisting yourself inside the Hummer EV, a couple of things you notice. First of all, these glass roof panels are actually removable, so you can turn this beast into a convertible if you want. I'm also sitting about 1,000 miles away from the videographer. It's just enormous in here, and it is very, very luxurious in kind of an off-roady sort of way. You got this like premium material, but it really is like a neoprene, so it's easy to clean. Start up the system, it all glides into life. You got digital everything. Even the rearview mirror up here is a digital screen. You can, of course, you know, go to old school life, but you can have it all digital if you want. It's got the full suite of Google Assistant in here, and I mean, it really is super, super advanced, super, super nice to use as well. You got all these cool buttons down here. You got locking differentials, but don't forget, you still get modern day luxuries like a heated seat, a heated steering wheel. This vehicle also has this enormous gauge cluster, which is completely configurable there, and I mean, it really is over the top in every way, and that's before we drive it. So the Hummer has 3 motors, 1 in the front, 2 in the back, for a total of 1,000 horsepower, which is just absurd. I mean, no vehicle that weighs 9,400 pounds should be able to do what this thing can do. And what it can do is blow your face off when you really go to accelerate. It is super quick. If I double click this button right here, the traction control off, look what happens. The screen starts doing this animation and it goes into WTF mode, and that stands for watts to freedom, or the word you make when you go to accelerate. So the whole truck is going to lower down. You can see watts to freedom lowering there, and then what's going to happen is you're going to get all 1,000 horsepower. And when you go to accelerate, are you holding on, Ryan? Yes. Watts to freedom armed. Yeah, it's 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. And there's a lot of drama behind it too. You get this crazy noise and it sounds like you're living in like a sci-fi movie. absolutely nuts. This thing is, I mean, it's not only designed to go drive up a mountain, but it's designed to scare every person inside. And that's before we talk about some of the crazy things that it can do. It can switch between 400 and 800 volts. So it drives at 400, it charges at 800, and that means you can get 100 miles of range in just 10 minutes with a max peak charging rate of 350 kilowatts. It's enormous, it's comfy, people get out of your way, people look at you, people give you thumbs up, people frown at you because they think you're killing the environment, but you're running on nothing but electricity. Of course, there's a lot of kilowatt hours in this battery. It's worth noting that also has a big environmental impact. I don't want to get into it. What you need to know is if you want just the most absurd, the most over-the-top, the most Arnold Schwarzenegger of EVs in the world, you have to consider the Hummer EV. Sure, this one has a giant tire in the back because it doesn't have one from the factory. It tows 7,000 pounds, but they've just like, come on, guys, how could you not like this? So from the $30,000 Bolt all the way up to the $112,000 Hummer EV, it's so cool seeing so many options in the EV landscape. For me, I mean, it just depends what you're looking for in a vehicle. If you want to save a lot of money, consider the Chevrolet. If you want to go tackle rocks, consider the Hummer EV. And then if you've got a family, it's hard to beat the Ioniq 5. And for the ultimate in kind of comfort and luxury, the EQE by Mercedes is pretty darn good. Now guys, let me know what you think in the comments section below. As always, this has been Tommy with TFL EV. We'll see you on the next video.